Going on and welcome. Idaho Sports Talk, Prater in the Ballgame right here, Sports Radio, The Ticket, hour number 3, March Madness in Boise, Idaho tonight. Tech, what a run. What an event the Big Sky Tournament has been at Idaho Central Arena. And our guest right now has been, Prater, almost as big a part of it as the teams with the role he has been on and the entertainment value our guest Joe Cravens is providing. Basketball analyst, longtime basketball coach, knows the Big Sky as well as anyone, and he's with us right now. And I have a feeling, Prater, we're going to have a lot of fun this interview.
Oh, it's going to bring it on. Bring it on. It all starts with fun, right, Coach?
Coach, welcome.
That's right, guys. Oh, I tell you, I'm about funned out. Tonight will be my 9th game in 5 days. I've had about as much fun as I can stand, to be honest with you.
I feel like it. I can only say this because we've been friends for 20 years going on this basketball season. And my first question, Coach, it's a 9:30 tip-off. Are you sure you can stay up this late for the game?
Jesus, I'm telling you, a quart of coffee and a 5-hour energy drink may be in my future. I tell you. Only problem is at my age, Mike, you drink a lot of coffee, then you got to pee so bad by halftime. You know, it kind of puts a little pink into things, so to speak, from the broadcast.
You got to pick your poison there, Coach. You know, you were flying around Twitter last night. People who caught the game that have never probably even heard of the Big Sky, let alone Joe Cravens last night. Kept tweeting. They were active on social media. You know, the Cravensisms that people who followed you for years know well. What was it like for you? Did you have any idea how much of a buzz you were creating on social media last night, Coach Cravens?
No. In fact, this is kind of the first I've heard about it, to be honest. Someone mentioned, when Mike texted me this morning something about national media attention or something, and then in the lobby, and it's been like living in a cave here at in this tournament. You know, you stay in the hotel and you just go right down the elevator to the arena. But someone in the lobby mentioned something about it, but I really don't. I'm not on Twitter, and I really don't even know much about what you're talking about, to be honest with you.
And I believe you, Coach. I believe you don't even know what Twitter is. And I went to the College of Idaho basketball game last night, and I didn't get home until late. It was after midnight. And when I fired up my Twitter account, Joe Cravens was everywhere. And, you know, most of it was, dude, I know you're from Iowa. I know you're coaching in the West, but now you're a rock star on the East Coast, because everybody on the East Coast was saying it's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm watching the worst basketball game of my entire life, because I wasn't a pretty game, even though it was overtime. But they said they couldn't turn off the announcer. They said Joe Cravens, and I saw this multiple places by multiple people, is America's greatest new treasure. People fell in love with you last night, dude. That's kind of cool.
You know, Mike, like you said, you and I have known each other 20 years, and you know that's the way I talk every day.
Yes.
You know, it's not, and I tell people, you know, you did make one mistake. I'm from Southern Indiana, not Iowa.
I meant Indiana.
If you go back to my little hometown that has 2 stoplights and 6,000 people, you're going to hear an awful lot of that, and it won't be coming out of Joe Cravens' mouth. That's just the way, you know, in that part of the country, people throw those colloquialisms around right and left, you know. And one I picked up a couple of years ago. My wife she says I can't use this. I've said it on the air once, and a couple buddies of mine called, not about 3 or 4 of them, actually from the Moose Lodge in Scottsburg, Indiana. And late one night, and I said, "Boy, you guys, it's been hot back there, hadn't it?" And one of them said, "Yeah, Coach, you know, it's been hotter than fat kids' corduroys here." And that made me laugh. I'd never heard that before, but my wife says I can't say that on the air. So anyway,
you can say it here.
We'll allow it on IST. Yeah, you can say it on Idaho Sports Talk, Coach. That does make a lot of sense. It's funny, too. Coach, you know, broadcasting for you, and a lot of coaches go into it. Some struggle, some it's a natural fit. For you, you know, I don't know if that was the case always where it is now, if you feel you're getting into your zone or you've been in it. Like, what are your philosophies and strategies with when you call a game and, incorporating those colloquialisms or whatnot into it? Feels like that's kind of your style. Have you kind of found your sweet spot with this broadcasting gig, Coach Cravens?
Well, I enjoy it, and I've been real fortunate that I've been able to hang in there. And this is my 17th year. I was doing an awful lot of Mountain West Conference games on AT&T Network, Sports Network. They lost their contract a couple of years, right, the COVID year actually, and I thought, well, that's probably about it for me, because I don't have an agent or anything, but over the 17 years I've made a lot of friends, and that's helped. But one thing I think anyone who has worked with me and people would say, I do my homework. I prepare. I put at least 6 hours into each game. For this tournament, I've worked somewhere between 30 and 35 hours. When you're preparing for 10 teams, that's a pretty arduous task. So first and foremost, I never show up unprepared. People see my notes, and I over prepare, I think, and that's the coaching in me. And I usually use about 40% of what I have written down on my cheat sheets, but you never know what 40% is going to be. Each game kind of goes a different direction. And in terms of how I present that and some of the things I say, again, that's, it's just like coaching. Everyone says you got to coach to who you are and to your personality. And it's the same thing in broadcasting. I try really hard to be who I am and be prepared. And I never throw anyone under the bus. I don't throw the referees under the bus. I don't throw the coaches or the players under the bus, because, Mike knows that there's an awful lot of that going on anyway. And I've been thrown under the bus. So I never do that. So I think people appreciate that I'm fair. And I had a referee last night, and I have this happen 2 or 3 times a year. They come up and say, thanks for taking care of us, and
nice.
Not being critical, not questioning every call and all that. So I try to be fair, I try to be prepared, and I try to be who I am.
Talking to longtime legendary college basketball coach Joe Cravens. On the call, college basketball analyst tonight, Northern Arizona, Montana State, Big Sky Championship, 9:30 ESPN2 at Idaho Central Arena in downtown Boise. Coach Cravens, that's exactly why, and I think you nailed it. And I'm not sucking up, but the preparation, the friendly banter amongst people, never throwing anybody under the bus, the coaching approach that you bring to broadcasting, I think that opens up the door for you to have a little bit more fun and push a little bit of buttons on the entertainment side. So in terms of those sayings, in terms of the Cravenisms, do you have favorites? Do you have ones that you like to use in every broadcast, or ones you pump out every now and then? What's your favorites?
No, I really don't give it much thought, to be quite honest with you. I just, again, if you and I, or the three of us, were sitting downtown at a tavern drinking a beer and watching a game, you'd hear the same stuff, I mean, it's not like I have a list written down, or those just, and someone will say, boy, I loved what you said last night. And I don't remember saying some of those things. It just, I always tell them, I didn't say that. That was someone else that said that. But that's just, again, kind of part of my where I was raised, part of my background, part of who I am. I say those things all the time on the golf cart, on the golf course, or sitting on the my deck or whatever. But that's again, I'm from a little 2-stoplight town, and people can't understand why I have such a southern drawl. They all think I'm either from Texas or Alabama. But if I said I was from Kentucky, you'd say, well, that's where you get the accent. I'm just from 25 miles north of Louisville, Kentucky. So it's
Gotcha.
Southern Indiana. Those people have the same accent or worse than what I do. So it's just, again, part of who I am, I guess.
He's on the call tonight, ESPN2, for the Big Sky Championship, and it's been a lovely treat for people getting to follow Joe and hear him call games the way that a lot of us have been able to do so for a little bit longer than him. A lot of Bill Walton was tweeted out in regards to you in comparisons. And I don't know if you've heard Bill Walton call a game, Joe Cravens, but a lot of people were saying they got a lot of Bill Walton in him. What do you think would happen if you and Bill Walton and whoever was doing play-by-play were calling a game together. Would that be something you'd like to do? Call a game with the big redhead?
No, no. While I respect Bill Walton and what he's accomplished and who he is, I don't, and I don't sit around and critique other announcers because everyone's different. And I truly think for every person that says something positive about me, there's another person that says, I can't stand that ignorant hillbilly. He drives me crazy. So, and I understand that. I'm not a big fan of Bill Walton's as an announcer. I think he, gets off on tangents and detracts from the game. And I don't know how much preparation he actually does. Again, I take great pride in how hard I work to be prepared. And, this is the last night of the tournament, and I've been here. This will be my 9th game in 5 days. I've just spent over 3 hours preparing for this game tonight on 2 teams that I've seen multiple times. And you just never know when you address whatever it is, the team's turnover margin, the team's free throw percentage, or whatever. But I and not to be critical of Bill, I don't know how much he actually. Because sometimes I think the times I've listened a little bit, I think he just shows up and calls the game. Okay. I don't know that he does anything in terms of preparation. So, say what you want about me, whether you like what I say or my accent. No one can ever say I don't put the time in and I'm not prepared.
Well said, Coach. Well said. Very well said. Let's dive into the serious business of tonight. Northern Arizona, 22 losses, has a chance to go to the NCAA tournament and do what nobody's ever done. Nobody's ever gone to the NCAA tournament with that many losses. They're on a roll. The three-pointer changes everything. They have the confidence. Montana State's a 2 seed, 9:30 on ESPN2 tonight, Coach. If you have a chance to call this kind of history and this kind of game, what kind of chance does NAU have tonight?
Well, they're playing really well. They're shooting in their 3 games in the tournament. They're shooting 50% from the field and almost 40% from the 3-point line. They have had the worst luck of maybe any college team I've ever seen this year. They've had 5 1-point losses in league play. Now they've won 5 of their last 6, and that one that they did lose was to Weber State in a 1-point loss in an overtime. Wow. But Montana State hangs their hat on defense and rebounding. And while Northern Arizona is shooting 50% in the tournament, Montana State's holding people to 40%. And so about the same thing on the 3-point line. Northern Arizona is shooting 39%. Montana State holding people to 27%. I think Northern Arizona is going to have an awful hard time matching up size-wise, physical-wise to Montana State. Montana State likes playing 2 big post guys, and Northern Arizona's starting 4-man, their second big, is like 6'9", 200 pounds, 210 or something. I think physically it's going to be tough for them. But with that said, Montana State played 50 minutes last night in a hard-fought double overtime game. So I didn't think Northern Arizona would beat Montana yesterday, and they sure enough did. So I think it's going to be, a very competitive game. I've done 8 games, and 7 of them have been terrific games. We had one blowout, which was Montana State versus Northern Colorado. The rest of them have been just tooth and nail all the way down to the buzzer, and this one could very well go that way. I think this is Montana State's 3rd straight year in the championship game, and I think that carries a lot of weight too. With Northern Arizona, they haven't been in the championship game since 2008, and I think that experience, I thought it really showed last year when Montana State got to the championship game for the 2nd year. They lost the 1st year to Eastern Washington, and I thought that experience really boded well for them last year. I think it will this year too. So I don't know. I haven't checked the spread on this game, which normally I do just for my own enjoyment. But I think Montana State will win, but I'm a big fan of Northern Arizona's coach and what he's done with that team.
Oh, beautiful. Well said. Joe Cravens with us, and former Idaho Vandal head basketball coach, Joe Cravens. Coach, we're having Terry Golick on our program tomorrow to talk about this hiring process and really get down and dirty with it. As a former Vandal head coach, those, Deion Watson, Orlando Lightfoot teams, you had both those guys one year. Coach, what would you like to see Idaho? What direction would you hope Idaho goes in regards to hiring this coach? It feels like this is a very important hire with how putrid Idaho has been recently in men's hoops, Coach.
Well, I'm not in the business of trying to tell anyone else their business or what they should do, but I want you to consider for a second what Danny Sprinkle, the former player at Montana State and very loyal alumni, obviously, of his alma mater, what he's done at Montana State in the 4 years he's done there. There's an ex-Vandal out there that was the high school player of the year in Idaho. He's won almost 400 games. He was the captain of the team at University of Idaho. He has won almost 400 games as a junior college coach, and he's going to be seeded number 1 or number 2 in the national tournament this year. That's Chris Ballman, who is at Odessa Junior College, and he checks an awful lot of boxes in my mind. His dad was a longtime baseball coach at Treasure Valley. I mean, he is a Vandal through and through. And again, look what Danny Sprinkle has done for his alma mater. I think Chris Ballman would be a terrific hire and a hire that made a lot of sense. Unfortunately, it seems like Idaho continues to do a lot of things that doesn't make a lot of sense with some of their hirings and what's been done basketball wise. But Mike, you probably remember Chris Ballman, don't you? That was a 4-year player and team captain there. He only played 2 years for me before they broke my dinner plate there and ran me off. But he's he's just like his dad, a lifelong coach, and just is an old ball coach and loves Idaho and has a lot of name recognition in the state. I think that would be an outstanding candidate. But, you know, like a lot of things, no one's called and asked me my opinion on that other than you guys. So.
I love it. Well, Coach, we'll let you rest those pipes a little bit. Big call tonight for the Big Sky Championship on ESPN2. The great Joe Cravens, man, a longtime Big Sky coach and a terrific basketball analyst. And appreciate you coming on. Hey, how was Prater to work with, real quick, Joe? Was he the best beat writer you've ever had covering your team?
Be nice.
You know what? I think the best compliment I can give Mike is he was always fair. And we actually became good friends and have remained pretty good friends. And I always enjoy Mike, but back when, you know, he was doing his job and I was trying to do mine, I thought he was always fair. And I thought we had a real mutual respect that kind of grew into a pretty good friendship. So I would, Mike Prater's okay in my book. How's that?
I love that, Coach. I love that, Coach. I'm going to come down and give you a big old fat hug tonight, and I'm going to come watch you play. And I may even come home afterwards at midnight and listen to you on television. So thanks for your time, brother. You've been very generous.
Thanks, Coach.
I always enjoy it. I think we did this last year for a little while, so I always enjoy visiting with you guys.
Great stuff. Joe Cravens will be on the call again tonight on ESPN2. Hamilton, New York, and Boise, Idaho. History